Welcome to Talksicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged, the place where we talk about all things substance abuse, recovery, and mental health, with guests offering varying perspectives and viewpoints. Hosts Joseph Gordo and Jason Cabello share about their addiction and recovery and other serious subject matter through lighthearted yet candid conversation. All right.
Okay.
Start this off with a serenity prayer. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, I don't know it.
That's right. No program here.
Yeah.
John Miller.
Yeah.
John the Wood Miller, as it's in my
The
my
Wood?
contacts.
Oh, really? I always wonder how I am in people's contacts.
Host of the Wood podcast.
Yes. Owner
Of the skate gym, Leander, Texas.
Yeah.
Which I've yet to make it out. It's on me. I need to come out though. It's indoor park during the summer here.
Yeah.
In just outside of Austin, Texas, is
In the burbs.
much needed.
Yeah.
It gets hot.
Yeah. That is the key word, much needed. And yeah, so everybody's really supportive and happy about it being there. So yeah, so far, kind of all right. Yeah. We can get into some of those details later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool though, man.
I wouldn't say so far so good, but so far kind of all right.
So far, kind of all right.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So far, getting better.
Yeah. So far sustaining.
All right.
Yeah. There we go.
Perpetual motion.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, welcome to the show. As I said before, John is the host of a podcast called The Wood, which is a skateboarding podcast.
Yeah.
Which I had the privilege on being on a little bit over a year ago. I think we recorded.
Yeah, and that was before I was on video, right?
Yeah.
Yours was audio only.
Zoom mic at House Park, and just kind of sat down on the bench while people were trying to skate and recorded a podcast. It was great.
Yeah. So I'm lucky I'm okay enough with audio programs. I got out not all the skating sounds. You don't want to take them all out. You want to leave some ambiance in there.
Yeah, just to let them know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's some people out there who even put the fake ones.
Cue the grinds.
Yeah, exactly. You're like the slash grind and then like the power slides.
Ooh, so raw, so real.
Yeah. But yeah, man, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Man.
I know that you had gotten sober 5
years ago.
5 years ago. And unlike many of the people that we have on here, just kind of did it on your own, which is always I think it's always super cool. You know, it's just a testament to when you're done. Like, you don't necessarily need to go to treatment 20 times like I did. You know, some people just like say, like, you know what, that's it. I had a friend who, by all accounts, should have been a burnout kid, right? Like, was just predisposed to it all. And, you know, we started sneaking stuff out of his parents' house and drinks out of his house, weed from my parents' house. And I mean, this is the 80s, so it was like lots of seeds, lots of stems, joint. And he was smoking it, and the seed was inside, and it popped.
Oh, yeah.
And it scared him enough to never touch anything ever again to this day.
That's it? That's all it took? Wow.
Right?
I wish it were that easy for me.
Yeah, like if I would have just listened to Nancy Reagan and just said no, it would have been like I would have had a much clearer path.
Yeah.
And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
And scared off by a ladyfinger. You know?
Yeah, right. But you know, to each their own. Man.
Yeah.
So give them a little background on yourself, where you're from, what you do.
Well, currently I own a skate park. I also work at the gym next door as a coach and personal trainer. And I've been freelancing video editing for the past year after I quit my job as a sales manager at a hose plant. I'm a lifelong skater. I don't think I've ever really said this, but I've been like a pretty bad alcoholic before. I don't think I've ever said that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Revelations.
Yeah. Well, it's not a revelation. I knew what I was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I've never just like
Said
it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess being on this show, it seems appropriate to actually say, as you said, I never went through a program. You did say that I didn't have any support. I did have a lot of support.
Okay.
But I didn't go through the official channels.
Right. So you didn't do like meetings or anything like that. You just relied on people in your life that kind of gave you support.
Yeah. So I've had, decent job. I've been able to work, be employed through it all. I was also working for my family business for a long time, which I don't know if that was a help or a hindrance. And then I've been through lots of schooling. I have studied religion for 7 years. I have a bachelor in Spanish and religion double major, and I have a master of divinity from seminary as well. So, and a lot of that was working as a chaplain in trauma units, working with addicts as well.
Oh shit, I didn't know.
So yeah, in psychology of religion, working with addiction. And so therefore, in a way, I guess I thought I was a little too good and educated to go through some of the programs that I was forced to go through when I got, DWIs and having to go to those mandated counseling. To me, that was all fundamental psychology.
Right.
Yeah. So, that was a big hindrance to me wanting to admit that anything was wrong. So,
yeah, I think that's a common thread amongst a lot of the people who I tend to work with as far as sponsoring guys. A lot of people who I either gravitate towards or they gravitate towards me would be a lot of, I'd say pseudo-intellectual or intellectual types who, such a common thread, I know what this is.
Yeah.
I can figure this thing out.
Yeah.
That's one of the more difficult things that I find, especially working with people like that, because it's you objectively know these things and think that that's what this guy's going through. And I know it's 12 steps, but I could definitely do it in 3. You know what I mean? All this stuff that, and especially with my ADHD brain, as soon as somebody starts a sentence, I already think I figured out what they're going to say at the end of it and feel the need to interrupt and all these things, so I was a thick-headed son of a bitch when it came to a lot of this stuff. Hence why I went to treatment 20 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and I
literally 20 times.
20 times.
Wow.
Yeah, 19 times in other facilities and 1 time at Recovery Unplugged, and that's
why
not
I just a figure of speech.
No,
you literally
20 times. Yeah.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, and
that's literally the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
I heard the best, one of you hear, especially when you listen to other people talk about their stories. That's what I love about that's why I go to meetings and stuff like that, or read the literature, because I'll hear stuff and I'll be like, that's exactly 100% what I'm feeling. So I heard Jake the Snake Roberts on a podcast, and he was talking about, when he would go to treatment, he would be the one who raised his hand all the time, or wrote everything down, get the guys together to do a little group study, talk about your feelings, and really have that hope, this is it. I'm going to get out. I'm going to stay clean. This is going to be great. But then as you're walking to the door, that disease, some people call it a disease, some people call it whatever. So we'll call it the disease. The disease speaks to you as you're walking out the door and saying that was fucking great. You killed it. You understand this thing. Let's go get one more and then we'll start this whole recovery thing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I felt. It was always one more. It wasn't I'm going to go repeat this cycle again. It was one more to take the edge off after this month in rehab, and then then I'm gonna get to it. And it's just that some of this stuff is textbook. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am.
Yeah, it's straight up textbook. I remember one time on probation having to go to those mandated courses, and I raised my hand. I was I just find it hard to believe, and it just seems really stupid that a beverage can control my life. It's that's just ridiculous. It's not my beverage, it's past issues and other things like that. It's not the physical beverage,
Right.
But then later on, a couple years down the road, I think I'd kind of resolved some of these issues that had plagued me. Obviously, as long as we're alive, we never fully resolve all our issues, but I'd resolved, I think, a lot of the issues that were leading to an addiction, but I was left with this physical addiction to a beverage. So ironically enough, it was the beverage that was the hardest thing that was to quit in the end,
Yeah.
So I would physically shake without it. I was going through all the motions, DTs and all that.
Drinking.
So literally that beverage had a hold on me. at the end.
So as soon as you wake up, you had to slam something to get the day going?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like drink 2 24s on the way to work type of deal.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah. And I mean, listen, that's maintenance at that point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's not like you're, that's one thing that the normies might not understand is that, like, I'm not shooting dope to get fucked up at a point anymore. Like, I'm shooting dope so I'm not fucking vomiting and having diarrhea all over the place, and I could, you can't move.
Yeah.
And one of the differences between, I am mainly an opiate addict, but I took just about anything, but mainly opiates and cocaine. But the physical addiction to opiates, when you come off of it, you feel like you're gonna die. Alcohol, when you're coming off of it, you can die. Alcohol and benzos, like you could go. I know plenty of people who have had seizures, hit their head, and that's what ultimately took them out. So, I mean, the physical part of it, and especially when you say that you kind of did it on your own, were you and like you and your wife like maybe supervise things with you, or did you? No.
I spent a lot of time reading, and of course, seminary is all about reading, and I intellectualized everything. I just read the books like The Death of Ivan Ilyich, and just other types of books, and a lot of Murray Bowen family systems, Salvador Minuchin's work, and just started learning about like family dynamics, and it took me a lot of like personal reflection, even with drinking, doing it, but just thinking about these things to work out a lot of issues in my life and from my childhood and everything like that. And, like I was saying, after I'd kind of come full circle and, me and my wife had some problems as well. We had managed to work through some things. I've done some pretty crappy stuff, in our relationship, but I got to the point where I could see what I was doing in order to cause a lot of that stuff. And a lot of that was starting to resolve itself. And like I said, at the end of all that, really the only thing I had left was to defeat this physical addiction. And I didn't want to have to take off work in order to just sit there and like go through this just like this gut-wrenching process to detox. I was like scared of that. Like you said, I was scared of dying during that, because you're hallucinating, couldn't sleep for 3 days, just puking everywhere, dry heaving, all that stuff. So.
And did you just kind of raw dog it, or did you get meds?
I raw dogged it. It was the worst experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I was just like, okay, man, I gotta do this, and I didn't. I missed work, for like 2 days, and I just stayed home and just like laid there awake in bed. Just
one of those like 3 days and 1,000 nights things.
Yeah. Not to this point, like where your mind's like going in and out of like this dream state, and you don't know if you're awake or dreaming or not. And, you're just like twitching, trying to wake, to feel like you're alive.
Right. So very similar experience.
Yeah.
Like going cold turkey off of opiates, which I've done probably as many times as I've gone to treatment, and I remember this one time, at this point I'm doing all oxys.
Okay.
Before I got into the economics of just doing heroin, and in South Florida, it wasn't that easy to get at this point. Like you kind of really had to search for it and know, and pills were extremely cheap at this time when I started doing them. It was during the whole pill mill thing. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the pill mill documentaries or anything, like Oxycontin Express. Definitely worth watching.
Okay.
The documentary took place maybe 2.5 miles from where I lived. Okay. It was this street in Broward County, Florida, Commercial Boulevard. Yeah. From I-95 to almost Federal Highway, which is almost close to the beach, 2-mile stretch, something like that. Pain management clinics. And that's where, I mean, it didn't start there. I think it started in like Appalachia or so I think that's where it really started. But they found some, the good people who opened these facilities found a loophole in the law where they didn't have to have it. And maybe because of like HIPAA or something like that, didn't need to keep a database of the pills that they were, because you could go in, get an MRI, see the doctor, and fill your prescription all in one place.
Did that have a lot to do with the geriatric population there too?
Probably did, and it was really easy to get doctors out of retirement so they could use their DEA numbers.
Okay.
They would just give a doctor an extraordinary amount of money to come in, and I mean, I would go into the to see my doctors with the foot injury. Well, I mean, I did have a foot injury, but I had later asked a reputable doctor, like, what would you have prescribed me for this? And he was like, the first time you came in, I might have given you 5 Tylenol 3s, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
and that's it. And I'm getting like, 100 oxycodone a month at each doctor that I'm going to. So, yeah, Commercial Boulevard, pain management clinics up and down the street. The whole neighborhood that I was living in, it was a lot of people who worked in like the marina areas, like hardworking, working class people who would have injuries at work. So you could go in, whole neighborhood just completely taken over by pills. So before I get too sidetracked, I'm taking a bunch of pills, and I decide, and have been told by many people, like, you need to get your shit together. This is crazy. So I try to go to detox the first time I ever go in, and there's a super long wait, and I had taken the last of my pills, and I'm about to start detoxing, so I'm hoping to get in so I can get on the comfort meds and get started on this thing. And they basically say like, oh, there's a couple of day waiting thing. And, my mom is kind of in charge at this point and saying like, all right, you're going to stay with me during this time. And I'm like, Mom, they're not going to let me in if I don't have anything in my system. That's the way detox works. And she thinks I'm bullshitting her. So she's like, no, I don't fucking think so. We've been through this a million times. So she just kind of like, I go into the room, close the door, and detox for like fucking 3 days like that. Like, cannot sleep, fever dream the entire time. I feel like I'm about to fall asleep, and like just this shock up my spine, and then I'm up.
Catch yourself falling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we get the call like, come back to detox to get in. And then I go and do the UA, piss in the cup, and they're like, you don't have anything in your system. We can't take you in. And I'm just like, fuck. It was just, I probably suckered into like getting me something after that. I don't really remember, but I'm sure I did. But yeah, so that cold turkey detox, that is soul cleansing. Because I mean, after you get out of that, you're just like, God. And to keep on going back for more is one thing, but after you go through that, there's a change in you. Whether you keep on going or not, like something's different. Like you've been through something, and that's another reason why I do a lot of meetings and hang out with people, because you get to, when you meet somebody who's maybe in the middle of that, and you could tell them like, listen, man, I know you feel like absolute shit right now, and you feel like you're gonna die, and I understand, but like it gets better, because even like, and maybe they don't I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear like, I'll give you something to make you feel better right now. That's all I ever wanted to hear. Not like, you'll feel better in a couple weeks. It's like, fuck, I don't think I could last that long.
Yeah.
So you say, how long did your detox, you say, take from?
I guess it took like a week total, like to go from not having a beer in my hand to being completely to where I finally felt normal and could sleep again.
Okay.
So it was a long time, because I'd been years of just every day drinking. Yeah. And I'd tried to quit a few times here and there. I'd been late at night on Facebook messaging like other people I knew that were sober, just being like, hey man, like I'd research because, that's what I do. I research everything and try to cognitively analyze it. And I knew all the steps and all the time frames of how long DTs would last and all that stuff, and the GABA in your system and all that, and the reactions and your body surging itself with, being flooded with certain hormones because they had been suppressed for so long. And that's where the origination of those hallucinations come from and all that stuff, And so I cognitively knew what was going on. So that helped a lot. Some of the people that I reached out to on Facebook, like Mike Kelly, actually, and him, skater, and yeah, he also went through some really hard withdrawals and has been sober for a long time. And he would actually, message back and forth a few times. He's like, "Hey man, you just got to stick it out. Let me know if you need anything. I'll be here. You can message me at any time in the night, and just like, so I really appreciated that, so yeah.
So listen, and I'm assuming, before all this got to where it got, you enjoyed drinking,
Oh yeah, man.
So what was getting back into normal life like after then, to where you maybe socializing or the first show you went to, things like that, where it's instinctive that you have something in your hand or you go to the bar to wait for, like these little things that, you don't really think about while you're sobering up, but then you get integrated back into normal life. And it's like, the whole, I don't know what to do with my hands thing.
My biggest thing was drinking while I was skating. So I had to bring a 12-pack with me to a ramp. It's what you do. You bring some beer to contribute to the session.
Right.
And so to not do that felt weird to me.
Bringing Topo Chico.
Yeah, Topo Chico. Almost Topo Chico. But I mean, at that point though, I wasn't even really skating with anybody. I was like sitting in front of my house, like drinking with my neighbor across the street, and he's a great dude. Like, that dude's taught me so much about life and everything. But that's what we did together. We sat on the front porch and
just kind of king of the hill style, just
kicking it.
Cooler.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's my neighbor. We talked about a lot of things, but that's what we did together. And after that, it was weird because I would go over there and I would just have a soda water and I would kick it while he had his bush, and it just wasn't really the same after that, and, the sessions, I started skating better, because I used to have some steering fluid in me in order to skate good. And I would try to skate and I would feel all shaky. And until I got a few beers in my system, I couldn't really smoothly do my front side grinds on anything.
Right.
Yeah. So, those types of things are what changed. And I think, like a house on a foundation, if you were to pull out that foundation, like the plumbing works to a certain point because everything's kind of just like jankily this is there, and the second you try to fix it, all the plumbing will break, right? And that's kind of where I was. My body kind of just like deteriorated for a little bit there after I quit drinking, and it's like I had to rebuild myself back up, and because it was functioning,
Yeah.
But it was functioning because everything was just kind of like just there, just holding itself in place, Yeah,
I mean, there's plenty of things that you could quit. Like you take certain vitamins long enough and you stop taking them, and like your gut feels different for like your body just gets used to one way of working things, adapting to it, and then everything changes, and it's kind of like body's still going, what the fuck?
Or like people that smoke a lot of cigarettes. I got a couple friends that smoke. Like if they quit smoking now,
that'd be it. That tar's keeping them together.
Exactly.
Listen, I understand. I have a friend, and he was an amazing talent. Bobby Load was his name. He was in a band called Load from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he was just one of those guys like wake up, old Milwaukee tall boy all the time, like the doctors told him that he had to quit drinking or he'd die. And he was just like, no, he just, and I do believe that he might have, I don't know, but like, it just seems like he was so dependent on it, and it was so part of his daily routine and everything about him. Like, I don't know if his body could have handled the shock of quitting drinking. I think that might have killed him as well. So,
well, I mean, that's where it was getting with me. When my blood pressure was high, my cholesterol was high. Every day I had to have that Bush, Bush Tall Boy, or I would just, switch between crappy brands, but, but mainly it was like a Bush or a Miller Lite. That's where I got my Instagram name, John Miller Lite.
Yeah.
So. Because it was just that. It was that thing that was just always there that was needed for maintenance. And
And was it known? Like, were you sneaking around and drinking, or did your wife know?
It was like I would drink in front of her a certain amount, and then when she went to bed, I'd like try to keep it as quiet as possible, like muffle it with like a sock on top of my beer, or just going outside to pee, you know, 'cause I pee in the backyard, you know, why did you pee in a bathroom, right? Anyway, I'd go to the backyard and open it up out there, then bring it in, you know, things like that. Yeah. She knew.
Yeah. So how was her reaction when you said that you wanted to quit?
Oh, I mean, by that time she was just so disassociated and kind of bitter, and like she just is like, okay, whatever, yeah. It took a long time to earn that like trust back, I guess, you know. And the thing is we met drinking, you know, and that's what we were. We were drinking buddies, and so we got married, and then like we had to like learn to like each other.
Right.
You know? Like the sober us, you know.
And is she not drinking now too, or is she?
I mean, every once in a while she might, you know, drink with some ladies at a bunko party.
She doesn't have what you have though.
No,
she doesn't eat
yeah,
every day.
yeah,
yeah. That's a tough thing to navigate too.
Yeah.
If like you and your partner are on one path, and then somebody goes another way, and it's like she could control herself. She doesn't have these things, like she doesn't have to ruin her fun.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
which is always a weird thing. Like for myself, me and my partner, she started at like 14 and then got clean at 18. Okay. And in that short time, just, you know, started with like some diet pills, and then within a couple of years was like shooting heroin.
Wow.
So just a kid who went off the rails,
yeah.
right? And as we're going on, we're together for like 4 or 5 years. I've already noticed, like, she doesn't have what I have.
Yeah.
Like, just with anything, with like food, like she could go and get a tub of ice cream, take a bite out of it, put it back in the fridge. You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck does that? Like, you know, just doesn't have what I have. So we started talking about, like, her and her mom were talking about like going on like a wine tasting thing in Europe or something like that. And then her mom was like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I forgot. Like, and I saw the disappointment in her face when she's like, oh yeah, I can't do that. And like, I had to have the conversation, like, if you're doing this for me, let's talk about that, because I think that's more dangerous than anything else. Because if it like abruptly ends, like, let's start having this conversation if you're feeling like a certain way, or like recovery thing. Because I mean, and maybe that's helped soften my opinion on things, because when I first got clean, I was just like, this is the only way to do it, work the steps or die, blah, blah, blah. And so with my like sponsees, like who want to go the same route I go to, like I do it a certain way. But when it comes to how I see other things, my opinion has changed greatly. And partly because of that, because I've noticed she doesn't have the same addiction thing that I have. You know what I mean? So we started talking about it, and she was like, you know, I think I might want to like have a drink sometime, or like, you know, we go to Canada a lot, and or California, and she'll be like, I don't know, like maybe I want to have like a gummy or a hit of a joint or something. So, you know, I had to think and talk about it with some people and be like, is that going to affect me if she does it?
Yeah.
And like, I came to the conclusion, like, no, and it shouldn't, you know, like.
Or is it a control mechanism on your side to be able to control someone else's behavior because of your issues?
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, I don't have, thank God I don't have that in me, where I'm just like wanting to control her thing.
Yeah.
And then we go to a restaurant one time, and she's like, I see her kind of like looking at like, you know, the bartender walking past the service station and bringing the drinks, and she's just kind of looking. And I was like, you want to have a drink tonight? And she was like, no. So she orders like little girly martini drink, drinks about that much of it, and was like, that was nice. And like leaves the rest of it there. Yeah. And I'm just like, shh. I believe you're a normie.
Yeah,
like, I believe you could handle this thing. And now she will enjoy herself every now and then and have a couple of drinks. And if she's going to go out with her friends or her parents, like she could get a little bit loose and then not do it again for months. And like, yeah, exactly. Like fucking more power to her. Like if I could handle a little bit of heroin and crack, I'd love that.
Like a little casual heroin.
Yeah, smoke crack like a gentleman, you know?
That brings me to a question for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
All right. So what is a dry drunk? And I'm trying to determine if I am one.
Okay. So in certain circles, you know, they will call a dry drunk as somebody who just quits drinking and doesn't do anything like stepwise is basically what it comes down to somebody who does like 12-step style recovery is somebody who doesn't do anything to build up like any sort of spiritual foundation or self-help once you put the drink down. Because, you know, for me and for a lot of other people, I was stunted by my using.
Okay.
And then I had to find something else to fill that void. Now, maybe because, and like everybody's different, so maybe the type of person who can fucking raw dog it and go like the week without doing it may not need it like I do. But for me, and so I know the first time, because I mean, I started partying, I was a late bloomer. Like I started smoking weed and stuff just around the same time everybody else does that I know, like 13 or so, or 12. But it wasn't until I took my first opiate at 23 that I was like, this is how I want to feel every single day for the rest of my life. It was just like this blanket of everything that lacked in my life was now there and telling me everything's going to be okay. This is great. You know what I mean? So to have to give that up, even though it didn't work the same as it did, you know, the first couple of times I took it anymore for decades, but there was still that thing that needed to be filled in me. So within, you know, with working a program that I did, it was working on myself so I could better help others that are going through the same thing. And that's kind of what fills a lot of people. Because, you know, a lot of people might not have the family that you have. You know what I mean? These things that make your life complete and full. Some people might be complete loners. Some people might do that. So for a lot of people, myself included, these things kind of make you a little bit whole. And even even like you know, somebody will say that they're feeling dry because they're just going through they're just not drinking or using drugs. They're not feeling anything. They're not doing anything to fulfill themselves. But I'm not sure if I would consider, and that's one of those things that it's, you know, it's self-diagnosed. Like I couldn't tell you like you're a dry drunk. You know what I mean? I mean, I could.
Well, I mean, you can look at sometimes though some like sober people and they have that wild look in their eyes, or like religious people, newly religious people especially, you know, and they're just like, they still look, you just see the trauma in their eyes and you see that it's unresolved. And, you know, like their quitting may be sort of like an extrinsic reward instead of an intrinsic reward. You know?
No, I totally get it. And listen, I know some people that like to an unhealthy amount get so involved in their service work that a lot of their other life gets neglected. And who's to say, is that a problem? Is that like doing too much good? Is that like being a martyr? What is it? Like, I don't know, but I definitely know people who I'm just like, man, like get out there and experience some life a little bit like that. Because for me, that's what my recovery is. You know, like I work on myself. I help other people at as much as I can, like one-on-one groups, whatever it is. Like I try to do it, but I don't feel like just being in like some echo chamber of that. Like I need to get out into the world. And like, so this way, like now friends of mine who used to not allow me in their house, you know what I mean? People who didn't want me around now call me and be like, man, my kid's having trouble. Like, what should I do? And that feels amazing when people finally start to like see that I've changed. Trust me again, and now value my opinion on something.
I know,
you know, like
really.
Me? Yeah, that's exactly what you know. So this is some crazy shit. I haven't talked about this on here yet. It just happened the other day. So I was in Nashville, and I met Christy Williams, who has a program called Shading the Limelight. You know the band Paramore?
Yeah,
she was their manager. Okay. She's Haley Williams' mother. So she was like the momager who brought them up. Yeah, she was. She was their first manager and like brought them up because she was a teacher. And so she could, you know, take the kids on tour, homeschool them or tour school them, whatever. So I had a meeting with her and she's helping me with my program and we're kind of partnering up. She's also a teacher at Belmont University in Nashville, which has one of the biggest it's one of the biggest music industry schools. Okay. And she asked me to come and be a guest lecturer at a university.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like...
intimidating, but...
I hope they don't check my transcripts because I have like a 9th grade education, but you know, like it's just one of those things like, All I think that I really did was fuck up my life and then find a way out of it. But I mean, if that's of some value to people, if that, if that's what I have to give back, like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that works, and it's it's a cool thing when it's just, it's like, don't they say like the measure of success is loving what you do?
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean,
because I love what I do.
I love
now,
what I do
but
too, man.
it's-
So
yeah,
I honestly do love what I do. Like, even just being able to sit here and talk with you and like my friends, and then what I get to do for a living and do documentary stuff and shit like that. Like, as a kid, I couldn't imagine like being happier with my life. I have a fucking amazing partner. We have a house. We live in Austin, Texas. Like, fucking A, man. So let's talk about what you're doing now, because I know you've made some.
Well, speaking of success, my kids the other day we were talking, and finances have been really stressful lately.
Opening a skate park is
and just like. Paycheck to paycheck, metaphorically speaking, but month to month.
Mm-hmm.
And our kids, they were like, well, we're rich. And I was just like, no, we're not rich. And they're like, yeah, we are. We have each other. And I was just like, you know what? You're right. Like I'm freaking rich, dude.
Yeah.
Like I got, a couple girls living with me at home, and I have a daughter, an older daughter that I have a good relationship with, and I have a wife, and, I have a good family, and like things are being taken care of. So I am rich,
Yeah, your kids are pretty cool. You bring them out skating. I mean, before you had the park, I met them out at a couple of different skate parks. You bring them to, or the ditch.
Yeah.
And just like cool kids to have around.
Yeah, so that is, if you're talking about successful, I think that's pretty successful, and, there's still some other things in my life, that I don't necessarily want to talk about on record, but that need to be fixed still, and, I'll get to those one day.
Right.
But as far as now where I'm speaking, like, I think I'm rich,
Yeah.
I do own a skate park. It's still going through lots of permit processes, and this has been ongoing for like a year and a half, and I'm still dealing with it. And so it's still not official. So I'm operating a pirate skate park pretty much at this point.
That's pretty sick.
I know. And it's like, why can't I ever do anything through like some official channel? Why does it always have to be like some janky workaround? You know?
I think that's what makes it special, though. You know what I mean? Like, you do it because it's passionate. Like, the passion isn't regulated by a sticker on the door from the state. Yeah.
So, that has brought me into, like, I was talking about earlier, my foundation, and I've had to rebuild my body and my soul from, all the abuse for so many years. And now I've been doing personal training and gotten involved with a gym, building my body back up. And that has made my skateboarding better than ever at 48 years old. And, I see a lot of people moaning about their injuries on the side of the ramp and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, if you would just like stretch and like eat better, not Taco Bell at the ramp, and just, just like you would feel so much better. And it's just like a flywheel effect. And then,
I need to come in and take up some of that personal training, because I need to get my pop back, man. That's one thing. Like, I just turned 50. And I'm like, and it's always one of those things, like some days, like on the weekends now, if I'm going to go skate, I have this routine. I go to the gym.
Yeah.
Super early. I get to the gym at like 5 o'clock when they open.
Yeah.
And then I just do some jump rope. But in between, I do a ton of stretching. And it's always those days when I get to the park then, or go skate, like I feel loose. I feel good. If I fall, it's a lot easier. It's just...
Yes, that's another thing. If you fall, it's a lot easier. Like I'll have, when your back foot slips off the board, you do the splits and everything. Like your inner thighs, the adductors, like that would have completely ripped a couple times if I didn't do all that stretching every day. And like,
I did that when I first moved to Austin. You know the steep bank on like the second block at House Park. I just went and I did like an axle stall on that and came in. And as I come in, my back foot slips off and my front foot keeps going. Tore my pants. and Chad was there. And
A little sack
Chad
tapping
was
on
there, and he's just like, "Ooh," and I'm like, "I'm good, I'm good." He's like, "No, dude, just like chill for a second." And like then I feel the burning, and I'm just like, "Oh, I was sidelined for a good 2 months after."
Yeah,
that,
see, and you're out on the sideline for 2 months, and then it starts this like destructive mental effect, and then a flywheel the opposite way that you want to go.
Yeah.
So,
And then, I mean, it was COVID too. So it was like during a time where I definitely like that's all I really had. My only outlet for anything was skating. And like, I couldn't even go push around and do slappies or anything like that. It fucking hurt.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the way that you skate. Cause I fucking love the way you skate. Cause you're an early bird like me. And I remember a couple of times showing up like at Lizard, and you had already been there, and you're already bleeding. Like and you have this. I remember Sean telling me like, yeah, he has to go there and start bleeding before anybody else even shows up. And I think you're wearing those Dickies there with the big hole in it, and you got blood like dripping down. It's like you kind of. I love the way you just kind of charge it, and
Yeah, that's kind of how I do everything in life too. And I do get a lot of cuts and bruises, permanent swellbow. But I guess it is metaphorical for how I do everything in life, and it's made me tough.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's got to give you some kind of like, if that's your base, like you get to the park and just fucking like, I'm going for it. Like that does kind of say a lot about.
Yeah, because like everything, like the skate park, I'm going for. I don't have a trust fund. I don't have. I had a little bit of a 401k. It was gone like the 18 months I was waiting for a permit, and finally I just told the landlord, I was like, look, I gotta like shit or get off the pot. And he's just like, well, just move in here and just start up while we finish out the permit stuff. And so everything's just been like gung ho. Pirate skate park. I had a pirate radio station in the past. Like I've always just kind of just like done it and asked for permission later. And sometimes it's worked out for me, sometimes it's not. My parents did the same thing. They were always the same way. They adopted 6 kids and just like, well, hey, we're gonna adopt 6 kids.
Oh shit! Were you adopted? Were you?
No,
no. Okay,
I was one of the biological. There's 3 of us brothers. So yeah.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, they saw the kids on one of those little adoption programs on the Tulsa Evening News, called Waiting Child, and they're just like, they wanted to make sure that all the kids stayed together, so their heart's big. And,
so it was 3 kids from one family, and
from different dads, but same mom.
Okay,
living in vans, cracky type of addiction situation, and the state was going to separate them, and my parents wanted to keep them together. And so they,
cool, man.
Sitting there eating their M&Ms, eating the Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and getting ready to watch Hill Street Blues on TV when there's a Tulsa Evening News, and they saw those kids and their heart went out to them, so they just applied. And then a few months later, after a few review processes, they didn't think anything of it, and they just called to check and make sure, that the kids got adopted. And they're like, "Oh, by the way, we're delivering them to you."
Oh,
so after that, my life was a perpetual youth camp.
Oh wow! What was the age difference between you and the kids?
So the youngest was 18 months old, the oldest was 12 years old, and I was 10 at the time. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then my older brother, he was about 15. So yeah, my oldest. Yeah.
Probably do a whole episode on that alone. That must have been pretty interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, the point was, to get back, is everything in my life has always been just like charge it, ask questions later, deal with what the circumstance right at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if you're doing something that you fundamentally isn't wrong. It's like, a positive thing. Like, you can be a little bit of a scofflaw when it comes to that stuff,
Well, yeah. And that's the thing is like this skate park, it's helped so many people in the community. Like I was kind of a latchkey kid myself. A bunch of latchkey kids show up every single day. They're out there doing things. I'm inside in the other room where the skate shop is. They're running inside, showing me their clips of whatever they get. It's like, they want the attaboy, the attagirl so bad, I don't know. Maybe they don't get it at home. I don't know. But it feels so good for me to be able to be like, that was freaking rad.
It's an
Keep doing it.
accomplishment. Like,
Yeah. And that I'm the person that they're going to for that.
yeah.
And so regardless of the long-term plan or not, like I was saying earlier, I'm rich, you know, like that was so rewarding, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you know, the lessons that skateboarding teaches you with just like sticking to it and keep trying. And even once you get it, you could keep making it better.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely, I think, you know, it definitely helped me as a kid.
Yeah.
Got me in a lot of trouble too, but you know, it's got to be fun too.
Well, I was being dropped off at Skate Park of Houston quite a bit, and at my neighbor's house as well. But like we would do the same thing. We would run in the skate shop and tell Dennis Epinette there, like, "Hey, we just landed this or that."
That's
He'd be
right.
Like, That's awesome.
We talked about Skate Park of Houston. I used to. That was I had family out in Houston, and in the 90s, I would go out. I would come and stay with them and go skate Park of Houston, and that was a fucking rad park, you know?
It was. Yeah, and it was this janky little park in the hood in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's a janky little park in some industrial strip center out in Leander, you know?
It was...
It's just like I'm recreating my past.
I got to see... I couldn't have... The changing of the guard when street skating kind of took over from vert skating.
Man. Yeah.
I saw it in a situation at that skate park. So it was a bunch of, I'm not going to say their names, you probably know who I'm talking about, like the cooler kind of street skater kids there who are like in the videos and stuff. They're sitting in the street part of the park, and a couple of pros, vert pros, I think it was like Brian Pennington and a couple other guys are like walking through and just kind of like in a good mood and walking past the street section. Like one of the kids is just like, last one of the vert ramp is a rotten egg. And all the street kids are just laughing at these guys who probably a year before were like their heroes and everything. Man. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, man, shit's just changed. Yeah. Like these are the fucking cool kids now. These are I always
total changing of the guards. It's exactly accurate.
It was so I remember just seeing that and being like, okay, this is like my generation is now coming up, and you know. And now, like, the park kids laugh at, like, the old guys like me skating the curb. It's full circle.
But they're still running in showing me their clips.
No, I know.
It's like a laser flip, and I don't even know what a laser flip is, but, like...
Well, and I mean... Thankfully, for kids coming up and skating now, it is much more inclusive now, and a lot less like they called it vibing back in the day. Yeah. Like you would see somebody dressed like you into the same thing that you were, and it was like, fuck you. Like, I'm going to give you an attitude or whatever. And now there's none of that anymore at skate parks that I see. I mean, there's still asshole kids, but for the most part, like, anybody can go to a skate park and feel welcome now. You know what I mean? And what I love about it is you go to a park where there's fucking people ripping, like just doing the most amazing shit you've ever seen. And then you'll see a little kid drop in on a ramp for the first time, same amount of enthusiasm you get for everybody.
100%.
And I love that so much. It's such a cool feeling. Like
Ricky Glazer showed up at the skate park the other day. He's like a YouTube pro.
Right.
And he ollied over the entire box, and everybody's like, yeah, that's amazing. At the same time, this other kid over here, he got his first frontside shove it. And everybody's like, the same amount of stoke,
That's
it was really cool to see.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Yeah. It's so cool that you have that and you get to be part of that and, keep it going and just be a positive, because I'm sure you're a huge positive influence more than you know.
Yeah, I hope so.
These kids are going to remember, like, they're going to be talking about you the way you're talking about the guy from Skate Park
Dennis,
Houston, like just legendary, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's going to be your legacy there, which I think is pretty cool.
I hope so, so.
You are rich.
Yeah. I guess that's the kind of the theme,
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. And I definitely, I will come to the park soon, and maybe we could work on getting my pop back up there, and I could document it, and we could show it from day one to I'll tray flip over the pyramid. Like that'll be my.
I'm
my
still
goal.
trying to get my pop back.
Yeah.
I'm like own a skate park teaching lessons, and I can't even kick flip
anymore. It could be one
anymore.
of those things like where you could coach it. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily have to be able to put it into practice to show me what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah,
you know, because there's 100%. A lot of times where I could see somebody trying something that I've never been able to do, but I could be like, hey man, if you just move your shoulders a little bit, I think that could help you.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I've done lots of that.
Yeah. You have an eye for it and just know a little bit about physics.
Yeah.
Pretending that I know a little bit about physics. But I'm sure you do, actually. You probably...
Not really.
No. All right. So this is the part of the show which we call rapid fire question time.
Oh, I've never been on the receiving end of rapid fire.
All right.
It's rapid fire question time.
So this is Joseph, my co-host and friend, isn't with us today, but his go-to question, I'm going to ask him here. So Ben and Jerry's approaches you, says we are going to make an ice cream. Anything that you want in it, and then what's it going to be called?
It's got to have marshmallow and peppermint.
Okay.
I don't know what I'll call it. Spongy fire.
Okay, that works. That works.
Yeah.
Spongy fire. All right. Supernatural experience. Ever have one?
Supernatural experience.
UFOs, Bigfoots.
No, I've never had one, man.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're about split 50-50 at this point. To some I might believe, some I don't believe. Doesn't matter.
I mean, I believe it. But
yeah.
I've never seen it for myself. So.
Yeah. I'm a big X-Files fan, so I think the truth is out there. All right, so if you're feeling down,
actually, supernatural experience. As many times as I got home wasted in my car.
That is a fucking supernatural experience, man. That is,
And I'm just like, okay.
Or
anyway.
you wake up and you just see where the car's parked, how like you skid in there, how bad you smell, and you're just like, I'm still fucking here.
Yeah,
amazing. So you're getting ready to go skate. You're by yourself. Got the ditch to yourself. What's your go-to pump-up song?
You don't want to know, dude.
Yes, I do.
Right now, at this point, you're gonna laugh. It's Dua Lipa, Physical.
That's good. Is it?
Let's get physical.
Is it a cover of Olivia Newton-John's, or is it a different?
No, not really. No, it's its own deal. I don't know why. it's a guilty pleasure. I really like that song.
Yeah. Listen, man, "Call Me Maybe" is one of my jams.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was. I don't know something about that song. Still, it's a fucking undeniable banger.
Yeah.
What is your go-to skate trick?
Front side grind on just about anything.
That's your
front side axle in, front side grind, your front side grab, pull in, all that stuff. I can do it just about anything.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So as a rich man, what's the secret?
As a rich man, what is the secret? Just be still. Just like a cat, you can't force a cat to come to you. Just be still and it will come to you. So, yeah. Which is kind of opposite to my whole philosophy of charging things. But, yeah.
There's this guy called, his name's Ray Googs. And he's a huge fixture in South Florida recovery scene. Yeah. He used to come in and speak. Every time I was in rehab, I would see this guy speak and then ended up hanging out with him at meetings and stuff afterwards. Yeah. But it always stuck out to me, like, at detox, somebody was like, well, what did you do when you first got clean? He's like, I just did this. Yeah. And people would be like, what'd you do today, Ray? He's like, I did this. And they're like, oh, did you go to a restaurant? I'm like, nope, I just did this.
Yeah.
It's like, kind of makes sense.
I think that be still is mainly keep your anxiety still. Don't think about the outcome, just be still and just do. Yeah.
Yeah. See that it's funny, like that's a big thing with like the 12 step. Like that's one big thing that I've learned on it is just like you do the work.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the result.
Like shut up and skate.
Yeah. Fucking shut up and skate. Yeah. Cool, man. So on that note, I'll let you plug whatever you want to plug and give a little bit of a last word.
Follow the skate gym at the skate gym on Instagram.
Skate gym.
Yeah, the skate gym.
The skate gym, Leander, Texas.
Yeah.
You've heard it here first. I'm going to tray flip the pyramid once I get my pop back, and we will
Yeah, me too.
it.
Maybe I'll learn to kickflip again.
There you go. Goals.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to be here. It's been a long time coming. Oh, what's the podcast?
Oh, the Wood Skateboard Podcast. That's right. So you search the Wood Skateboard Podcast. And I'm also producing Chip and Carrie's Won't Shut Up and Skate podcast as well. And that's all about Texas skateboard history.
That's right. Chip Queso.
And Carrie Jackson.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good shit, man.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you coming on. Joseph, I think you're in San Antonio today doing something out there, doing important things, saving lives. So I will sign off, as Joseph always does, by saying there's 1,000 ways in, 1,000 ways out, and we hope you find yours. Talksicology Podcast.